Right, guys, UFC London is upon us. Tomorrow night it goes down from the O2 in London. But before I go into that, I just want to say we hit 1,000 subscribers today, so that's great news. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe because we're going to be going to the O2 tomorrow. We didn't get tickets, but we're going to be doing a little giveaway with the fans, talking to the fans, asking them questions, a bit of a quiz type format. And if they get the questions right, we'll be giving them a bit of money. So if you're about there, give us a message on comment down below, and you know you can enter the competition, get yourself some cash prizes, and go spend that in the O2, get yourself a few drinks. But anyway, big thank you to everyone. But now I'm just gonna go into the Aspinall versus Volkov card. So I just wanted to go into it and break down and give you more information about the UK fighters. So this week I've been researching mainly about the UK fighters, myself from the UK. So I'm very interested to know their stories, and I hope I can give you guys some more information on this. But we'll start from the top down. So the main event, Tom Aspinall versus Volkov. Now, Tom Aspinall is 28 years old. He's from Salford in Manchester, and he trains at Team Carbon. So that's Darren Till's gym. His dad is a jiu-jitsu black belt and a coach. So from very young, he was being on the mat learning jiu-jitsu, and he's also achieved his black belt in jiu-jitsu. Now, we haven't seen that much of his jiu-jitsu because he's just been taking people out on the feet, but we did see it against Andrei Arlovski in the second round when he got that rear naked choke finish, and he just slipped it in so easily. But Tom Aspinall's record so far is 11-2. He's had 4 fights in the UFC, all finishes. So 3 TKOs and that 1 submission against Andrei Arlovski. So that's probably the biggest name he's beat. Former UFC heavyweight champion Arlovski is. And Spivak, so Sergey Spivak, he just beat Greg Hardy and basically took Greg Hardy out the UFC last Saturday. So a finish over him is amazing, and he got him out of there really quickly as well. So I rate Tom Aspinall because he doesn't want to rush his success. I mean, anyone like 28-year-old guys been in mixed martial arts for so long, they just want to just get to the top, get the money, get the pay-per-view buys. But this guy's whole career has been about sort of building up slowly. Like, he even said in the amateurs, he wanted as many fights as he could. He wanted to have 50 fights in the amateurs to get that experience before going pro, before getting into the UFC. The problem was he was beating these amateurs so easily, they had a really hard time finding opponents for him. So, like, Coach Colin Heron from Team Carbon would go to the events with them, and opponents either wouldn't turn up or they're just struggling to get opponents. So then he went pro. Then he fought in Bama. Same situation. He was beating everyone there. He had 1 loss from a submission heel hook. But yeah, other than that, run through a few people in Bama, struggling to get opponents again. But at this point in his life, his wife actually had twins. So he needed to obviously provide for his family. So he made that decision then to go to Cage Warriors. And because the UFC signed people from Cage Warriors, for example, Paddy Pimblett, Jay Herbert are both on the main card, and they're both from Cage Warriors. So he signed with Cage Warriors, got a few wins in Cage Warriors, and then got signed to the UFC. And I think it was the right financial decision because the UFC awarded him with a performance of the night bonus. I think it was either against Spivak or Arlovski, I'm not too sure. But there's a video of him online that I've seen recently where they tell him he's got the bonus, and he sort of breaks down with, starts crying with like happiness due to, obviously he's probably thinking about times where he couldn't get fights, not getting paid for fights, opponents not turning up, not getting paid. So fair play to Tom Aspinall. Even though he wanted to have a slow rise, he needed to sort of get into the UFC at that point in order to really carry on fighting and provide for his family. So I'm just going to go and talk a bit about Volkov now. So Volkov is a lot more experienced than Aspinall. So we know Aspinall, 13 fights, 11 wins. I just wanted to touch on the other loss, except for the heel hook at Bama, was a disqualification by elbows. And John Jones has got this loss on his record. That's the only loss he's got. So it's probably it's a 12-6 elbow that you can't throw. So we can't really count that as a loss. So he's only got 1 loss really. But anyway, Volkov, 43 fights, 34 wins and 9 losses, and he's been in the UFC for a long time. He's beat Alistair Overeem, he's beat Verdum, he's beat Stefan Struve, beat Roy Nelson. He went on like a 6-fight win streak at one point, but that was stopped by Derek Lewis, which he was actually beating Derek Lewis the whole fight, piecing him up, could have finished him on multiple occasions, but Derek Lewis in the last minute of the 3rd round literally just putting a bit of effort in and landed a big strike and finished him off. So I feel like Volkov should have really won that one, and he's probably kicks himself to this day. Could have literally stayed away from Derek Lewis for a minute and got that victory, but you know, he didn't. So that was one of his losses. And then his other loss was to Curtis Blades, who just literally wrestled him for like 5 rounds. And then Cyril Gane, he had a fight with him, and Cyril Gane beat him over 5 rounds. But Volkov was still was competitive in there. It was on the feet the whole time, so he was competitive, which shows the level of striking Volkov has. Because if you can stay in there with Cyril Gane and, you know, make it competitive, you have got top class striking. And this is what I think is going to be a very competitive fight for Aspinall. Aspinall's been taking people out in round 1 or 2. He hasn't gone past round 2 in the UFC. It's not going to be a quick finish. Volkov is very tough. I don't think he's, apart from the Derek Lewis knockout, he's never been finished in the UFC. But I think even Tom Aspinall describes him as like an awkward kickboxer. So it's gonna be interesting on the feet. Tom Aspinall's very explosive, very technical, hits hard, really good striker. He's got the youth on his side. I believe he's got the cardio on his side as well. Even though we haven't seen that, but I just feel like I know that he trains hard. So I don't think cardio will be a problem. He will be fully prepared for this. But I feel like Aspinall, if he wants to make it easy on himself, he needs to bring in his grappling. Volkov's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. Aspinall's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So, and we know Aspinall's got explosive takedowns, as we saw against Arlovsky. So I feel like if he mixes in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, he can maybe get a submission finish, but it also gives Volkov something else to think about. And this will also help Aspinall let his hands go, let his kicks go with sort of more freedom. I feel like Volkov loves the leg kicks, so I feel like Tom Aspinall needs to be careful of that. But Tom Aspinall has all the tools to win this fight. I believe he will win this fight. He's very calm. He said his only maximum people he's fought in front of is 1,000 people. He's fought in the UFC like in the COVID times at the Apex, and before that it's like the max being like 1,000 people. Now he's fighting main card at the O2, a huge arena, but he's very calm. He's one of those people that are just chilled. Naturally, that's their nature. I watched loads of interviews with him. He's very calm. He's very self-aware as well, so he's not deluded about his skills and stuff like that. He even says Volkov on paper looks like the favourite. Veteran, you know, reach advantage, taller. But so he's taking him seriously. He's not going to overlook him. So it's going to be a great fight. Really looking forward to it. I didn't know that much about Aspinall till this week. So if he gets the finish, he's up there. He can fight Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa. And I think he'll beat both of them. Genuinely think. I think he's that much of a good athlete. He'll beat both of them. So yeah, I'm going to move on now. Okay, so the next fight I'm going to break down is Arnold Allen versus Dan Hooker. I'm very excited for this. I think that they're both very high-level guys. Dan Hooker dropping down from lightweight to featherweight. Arnold Allen, 8-fight win streak in the UFC. And I saw a tweet on this that someone said Arnold Allen has literally the quietest win streak in the UFC. Like 8-fight win streak is big, but no one really talks about it or you know, hasn't been a big promotion about it. And until this actual fight night, I never really heard of him. But he's from Suffolk. He actually trains in TriStar in Canada, GSP's gym, and he actually says that like he grapples with GSP. He's got the genes for strength. His dad's a strong man. His brother's a strong man. So he's got them athletic strength genes. The 8 wins, I don't recognize any of the names except for Gilbert Melendez, obviously a legend of the sport, Strikeforce lightweight champ, part of the scrap pack with Nate Diaz and Jake Shields. But when he fought Arnold Allen, Gilbert Melendez was on a massive decline. It was like his 5th or 6th loss. And that was the last fight he had before he retired. So we can't look too much into that. But he looks like a very well-rounded athlete. He can do everything. He can wrestle, he can kickbox. He's got submissions. And, you know, he's been training at Renegade's gym in Birmingham for this fight, which is Leon Edwards' gym. And Leon Edwards spoke very highly of him as well. So it's going to be a very tough task for Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, he's had the weight cut to contend with the first... Well, no, not the first time. He was fought at featherweight before. He went up to lightweight. Now he's come back down to featherweight. But to me, he looks a little bit too skinny. And, you know, we see him lost against Poirier and Chandler. And Chandler took him out with a left hook. Now, when you cut weight, your chin sometimes doesn't hold up as well. So I feel like obviously Chandler's a beast, but I feel like Arnold Allen also is going to have that power. So I feel like Dan Hooker needs to be very, very careful. Can't underestimate him. Dan Hooker, in the last 4 fights, he's only won 1, like I was saying. So he lost to Poirier, Chandler, then he fought Nasrat. Beat him, really, really good fight against Nasrat. Great performance. And then he lost against Islam. Took no damage against Islam, and it was a different fight. It's like, everyone knows Islam's a crazy wrestler. Took him down and submitted him. So Dan Hooker's got not a lot to prove because he's had wars. He's beat Gilbert Burns, Ali Quinter, Jim Miller, Paul Felder. You know, he's 6 foot, 75-inch reach for that featherweight division. That's massive. Arnold Allen is 5'8" and 70-inch reach, so it's a 5 each reach disadvantage for Allen. And I feel like it's gonna be a kickboxing fight, but I feel like Arnold Allen could use that wrestling to slow down Dan Hooker, get him tired, so that in the later rounds Arnold Allen can really push and hope that like weight cut really affects his cardio and stuff like that. Dan Hooker's fought a featherweight before, so it might not be that much of an issue, but I feel like Arnold Allen will get the win here. And that's a shame for Dan Hooker. They should have given Dan Hooker an easy opponent for featherweight. And if Arnold Allen beats Dan Hooker, then, you know, he's looking at like those top 5 people. Maybe even get like a big fight against I don't know who's fighting in that division. I don't know. I feel like Dan Hooker's sort of been stitched up a little bit here. He should have fought someone easier at featherweight to really test the weight cut and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Dan Hooker's a big name, so if Allen beats him, it will be the biggest name on his sort of CV, let's call it. And I look forward to it because, you know, I've only watched his fights on Fight Pass, never seen Arnold Allen fight live. How is he gonna react to the big crowd, home advantage and stuff like that? Dan Hooker really got a good pop at the weigh-in, so he's a fan favorite as well. But yeah, great fight. Right, the next fight on the card, Paddy Pimblett. Massive hype behind him. He brings a massive audience. So much so, he signed I think it's £1 million deal with Barstool Sports to be a brand ambassador and content creator. So he brings that audience from Cage Warriors, just people know about him a lot. He's got a great personality. He's funny. He's got the Scouse accent. Similar vibes to Conor McGregor. However, I was not impressed with his UFC debut against Verami, who actually rocked him twice, but Paddy Pimblett come back and knocked out the guy in the first round, end of the first round. The thing is that I feel like the difference between him and McGregor was running through the division, the featherweight division, like finishing people. He looked like unstoppable really in that division. So I don't think you can make them comparisons. However, Paddy Pimblett's actually a jiu-jitsu guy. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he decided to box with this guy. And he's even said that when he fights these unranked opponents, so he's got a 4-fight contract, and he's only going to fight unranked people because he wants to get a bigger UFC contract to fight the bigger names, which is fair enough. And he said that if he wants to stand up and give fans like stand-up fights, but if he needs to use his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu, he will. So, you know, I wasn't too impressed, but, you know, he probably run through this guy, Ricardo Vargas, 12-4 from Mexico. That's literally all the information I've got about him. And I think hometown crowd, no one knows about this guy. He's probably going to run through him again. So it's going to be interesting to see if he decides to stand or take him down. Maybe he doesn't want to get risk getting rocked again. Won't look too good. But yeah, that's all I have on that fight. I'll be really more interested in him when he starts fighting people ranked, getting into that top 10 of the lightweight division, because it's a stacked division. Like, you know, fighting like Poirier, Tony Ferguson against Paddy Pimblett. Now that's what I want to see. But for the time being, he has to build himself up, and the UFC got to get their money out of him. Next fight, Gunnar Nelson versus Takashi Sato. Gunnar Nelson, going back a few years, quite a big name in the UFC, jiu-jitsu specialist, amazing grappler, considered to be one of the best grapplers in the UFC at the time. Now, I first sort of heard about him in the build-up to UFC 194, which was when Conor beat Aldo, and it was part of the SBG team under John Kavanagh. And he fought Damian Maia on that card. He lost to him, but it was like a close grappling fight. Damian Maia on his back like quite a bit of the fight, so one on control. Didn't submit Gunnar Nelson, but on his back, as Damian Maia sort of always does. So his last fight was in 2019, and he's coming off 2 losses. One's to Edwards and one's to Burns. So these are top guys, nothing to be ashamed of. So he's been out due to injuries, but he's been like, you know, he's got a family. He said he's been being a dad, coaching, but now he's had a really good camp because of, you know, he's rehabbed his injuries and stuff like that. And I feel like he was plagued with injuries a lot in his career. He's got a record of 17-5. He's beat some decent names, Cowboy Oliveira, who Kevin Holland just beat, and Alan Joban, so he's now retired and is like a commentator. So, you know, it's like, to me, he belongs in the top 10, but I don't think he's unranked at the moment due to inactivity. I think he'd be good around that 10. That's his level, around 10-5, around that level, I believe anyway, for Gunnar Nelson. But we haven't seen him for 2 years, so who knows? He'll come back, submits this guy, Sato, then, you know, he'll probably get a ranking number. This Sato guy, 16-4. The only name that I recognise on his list of opponents is Belal Muhammad, but he lost to Belal Muhammad. He fights in Tokyo. He's from Japan. Fights in Tokyo. Both unranked guys at the moment, so don't really know too much about him. But Gunnar Nelson, yeah. So he seems like a really calm, really nice guy. It's very strange though, because before people were talking about Kavanagh, such an amazing coach. Now, if you look in the comments when Gunnar Nelson puts something out on his channel or there's some promo about him, people are like, oh, he would have done so much better at another gym. So it just shows that the fans at different points, you know, making observations. At one point, SBG was the gym. Now it's like, Connor's lost a few. Now it's like, you know, it's not a great gym. He should go somewhere else. So who knows? But I hope he does get the win, man. I think, you know, getting into the latter part of his career now, he deserves a bit of a run. Last run, I think, for him.